I arrived at the long overdue family reunion, and for the first time in years, a quiet hope stirred in my chest one I hadn't allowed myself to feel in so long. It had been 3 years since I'd last seen them, years spent abroad working as an IT consultant. But the moment I stepped onto that familiar porch, Kathy, my mom, greeted me with a soft smile that somehow felt distant. "I'm sorry, Megan," she said in an even, almost rehearsed tone that sent a chill down my spine. "I think you've come to the wrong house. This is a private gathering for family only." My world tilted. I blinked, trying to understand her words. "Mom, what are you saying?" My voice was barely a whisper. Her expression didn't change. "I'm sorry. I don't know who you are." A cold terror began to creep up my spine. "You can't be serious." "It's me, Megan." The door clicked shut, not slammed, but with a deliberate finality like something vital had ended. I stood there frozen. The sharp autumn air sliced through my coat and sank into my bones. For a moment, I thought it had to be a cruel joke, a twisted prank. But then I heard them on the other side of the closed door. I stumbled back, blinded by tears, trying to leave with what little dignity I had left. This was the very house I had saved 3 years ago when Dad Thomas lost his job and the mortgage payments had fallen behind. When Mom was struggling to make ends meet, I had covered the utility bills, the groceries, even the Christmas presents, and now they were shutting me out, not just literally, but emotionally, spiritually, as if I'd never existed. My hand, surprisingly steady, unlocked my phone. I opened the banking app and hovered over the screen for a heartbeat, just before starting what I knew was coming. Memories I had long buried came rushing back, sharp and scorching. I remembered my 27th birthday, how everyone had just forgotten. And then I remembered the birthday when I was given nothing but practical household items, while my sister Erica unwrapped expensive designer gifts. The look on my parents' faces, so openly proud of her, so casually dismissive of me. They always used to say, "Oh, Megan, you're so independent. You never need anything." Independent, the polite euphemism for unseen, unconsidered. I used to laugh it off, thinking it was just a little misunderstanding. But those moments had piled up, each one a tiny cut that festered quietly beneath the surface. I kept telling myself it didn't matter. I was the older sister, the reliable one, the helper. But it was Mom who hurt the most. Always smiling, always sweet, but with a quiet, calculated cruelty. "Erica has such a bright future," she once cooed. "If only you could support her a little more." Support her? I already had. More than any parent ever should have allowed their child to. And when I tried to step back when I told Mom I couldn't keep affording it, her voice dropped low and soft, laced with disappointment. "Family means sacrifice, Megan. We've always been there for you." Been there for me? I remembered when Dad slipped on the frozen porch, and I paid the hospital bills and they didn't even tell me he was better until 2 weeks later. I remembered canceling a trip with friends because Erica had called sobbing, needing help with her rent. I remembered sitting in my cold, dimly lit apartment beside a secondhand Christmas tree and finally understanding the truth. I wasn't their daughter. I was their sponsor. The next day, my phone buzzed on the counter. A new message. My heart skipped. Maybe an apology. Maybe they'd reconsidered. But the sender made my breath catch. Erica, and it was addressed to Mom. It was a misfire, a message sent to me by mistake. My hands trembled as dread crept in. The thread was between Erica and Mom, discussing Dad's mounting medical expenses in painful detail. I kept reading. With each line, a new chill spread through my bloodstream. "She thinks paying Dad's medical bills gives her a ticket back into the family," Erica wrote. "That's why she showed up to the reunion. She meant me." I felt my stomach twist. Then came the real venom. "Megan is always so controlling. That's why I can't stand her. You and Dad are so much more relaxed when she's not around." I stared at the screen, watching their words glow with betrayal. Every sentence was a blade. My years of sacrifice, the endless financial support, it had all been reduced to some manipulative transaction. The rage that rose in me wasn't fiery, it was cold. Hard, absolute. Not the kind that screams, but the kind that settles deep in your marrow and never leaves. My hand moved deliberately, tapping the banking app again, First, cancel the automatic transfers for Dad's medical bills. Next, shut down the joint account I had set up for their emergencies. Each tap sounded like a door closing. Not on them, but on my own self-erasure. I felt no guilt, just a clean, cold finality. A lightness I hadn't known in years. When I finally set my phone down, it was buzzing with missed calls. Mom, Dad, Erica, even my aunt. They probably thought I was being dramatic. I didn't respond. I didn't even look. By morning, the missed calls had risen to 61, then 80. And I felt nothing, just a strange, quiet warmth. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning. I was free. The first call I finally answered came from Mom. Her voice was tight, already laced with panic. But the true chaos came 3 days later when they showed up at my door. Mom's face was blotchy, her eyes swollen from hours of crying. Dad loomed behind her, stiff and silent, hands jammed in his coat pockets, radiating a quiet fury. "We need to talk," Mom insisted, stepping forward. But I blocked the doorway. "No, we don't." "What do you mean we don't?" Dad's voice was low, but it was laced with the heat of a man ready to explode. "You've turned our lives upside down. Canceled cards, stopped my treatments. Are you out of your mind?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, calm and unshaken. "You think saying no for once means I've lost my mind?" "This isn't just about you, Megan." Mom's voice cracked and fresh tears welled in her eyes. "We're your family. Your father's health is on the line. That's your responsibility." "No, it's yours." I answered in a calm, steady voice. My emotions didn't waver. The deep breathing I'd learned in therapy came to me instinctively, grounding me. "Do you even hear yourself right now?" Thomas shouted, stepping forward. "You're overreacting to a misunderstanding. We're your family." "You slammed the door in my face," I snapped back. My voice was steady, but every word carried weight. "I came here for Thanksgiving, and you, my own father, closed the door on me. I've paid rent, utilities, even your medical bills. I've kept this family afloat, and you treated me like a stranger." "Megan, you're being dramatic," Kathy whispered, but her voice trembled. Cracks were forming in the mask she always wore. "Am I?" I leaned in. The anger I felt wasn't the old, boiling kind. It was something new, cleaner, sharper. "Tell me, what did I get in return? Insults behind my back? A sister who sees me as her personal wallet? Parents who smile when they need something and vanish when I'm no longer useful?" "That's not true," Kathy cried, her voice shaking, but I saw just a flicker in her eyes. "The calculation." "Oh, it is," I said, pulling out my phone with a calm I didn't expect from myself. I scrolled through my messages until I found the one. The one they weren't supposed to let me see. I tapped play. Erica's voice rang out disturbingly clear. "She thinks if she pays for Dad's medical bills, that makes her part of the family again." Silence fell, thick, suffocating. Kathy's face was drained of color. Thomas clenched his jaw, eyes darting to Erica with the kind of glare that burns. Erica tried to shrink back. "That's not what I meant," she blurted, all bravado gone. "Megan, You just told the truth," I said, cutting her off. My voice sliced through her excuse like a knife. "You said exactly what all of you really think." Kathy's expression shifted. She wiped away her tears and suddenly wore a nostalgic smile like flipping a switch. I watched the change intently, studying every detail. "But Megan, do you remember when you were little, how happy we used to be?" she said softly, pulling a worn photo from her handbag, one I knew she'd prepped in advance. For a fleeting second, something warm stirred in my chest, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Oh, I remember," I said, staring at the photo. I looked at the 7-year-old me with pity. I remember Dad yelling, "They're going to shut off the power again," right before we took that picture. And you pinching my cheek after it was snapped, telling me to smile prettier. "We're sending this to relatives." Kathy's fake smile froze. "Love," I continued. For the first time, emotion broke through my voice, but it wasn't grief. It was liberation. If you loved me, why didn't you come to my college graduation? You said you had a headache, but I saw you later that day helping Erica get ready for her date. Her boyfriend meant more to you than 4 years of my work. Thomas cut in again, this time, with a different strategy. His voice softened, one hand pressed to his chest like a melodramatic actor. Megan, think about my heart. This kind of stress isn't good for me. I'm your father. I've worked hard my whole life for you. I stared at him, unmoved, just like my therapist had warned, manipulators cycle through tactics. Worked hard? I shook my head slowly. In the last 5 years, you've worked full-time for a total of 18 months. But you never missed a weekend at the racetrack, while I was paying your medical bills. His feeble performance cracked, and the anger rushed back into his eyes. You don't know what you're talking about. Erica stepped forward next, her voice sugary, eyes wet playing the child she used to be. Megs, please, we're really struggling. I even started working, okay, at the grocery store. I'm trying. I looked at her. For a moment I saw the little sister I used to adore. But then reality settled. A grocery store job, 15 hours a week, minimum wage. I lifted my phone, showing her the screen. Last month's credit card bill, $300 on cosmetics, $200 on a nail salon. Her fake sweetness cracked. I have to maintain my look. I'm an influencer. Right, I said, flipping to her Instagram. This post from last week. Thanks to my sister for another amazing lunch today. Gratitude, family, love. Then I pulled up her message from the same day. We don't have enough for Dad's meds. Please, Megan. It's an emergency. I raised an eyebrow. Which one was true? That's when the doorbell rang. We all turned. Megan, are you all right? Came the voice of Mrs. Harrison, my 70-something neighbor from next door. Concern lined her every word. Kathy immediately fixed her hair, switching into her good mother expression like a seasoned performer. Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Harrison. We were just having a bit of a family discussion. I opened the door before Kathy could say more. Hi, Mrs. Harrison. Everything's fine. She looked me over carefully. Sweetheart, I've been worried. There've been so many raised voices lately. Especially late at night, I hear your phone ringing constantly. Kathy froze behind me. And I remember when you collapsed from pneumonia, Mrs. Harrison went on. The ambulance came, but none of them went to the hospital with you. I visited the next day. You were all alone. Kathy started, but Mrs. Harrison raised a hand. And funny how they only seem to show up when money's involved. Always loud, always demanding. But when you're sick or celebrating something, they're nowhere. Silence. Kathy's mask shattered completely. Mrs. Harrison, I said gently, thank you. But it's all right now. They won't be coming back. She nodded, understanding. You're a good girl, Megan. If you need anything, I'm right next door. She gave the three of them a brief, piercing glance, then walked away. No one said a word. They'd been exposed, stripped bare by a witness who had no reason to lie. Just then, my phone rang again. It was Mr. Ford, my boss. I answered. Megan, we've got a situation, he said. Someone claiming to be your family called the office. Said you're mentally unstable and need a leave of absence. HR's in a panic. My blood turned cold. What? She claimed to be your mother. Said you're exhausted from caring for the family and can't make sound decisions. HR is seriously worried. I turned and locked eyes with Kathy. Her face was already showing guilt. Mr. Ford, that's a lie. I've never requested any leave. He exhaled with relief. That's what I figured. You're one of our most reliable employees. But there's more. This same woman also contacted HR asking to change your payroll deposit information. My heart dropped. What? She claimed, and I quote, my daughter is too unstable to manage her finances. The family needs control. Of course, HR declined. I stared at Kathy. She looked away. Just then, I received a message from my colleague, Susan. I put it on speaker. Megan, This is serious. I just heard that your mom tried to convince HR to delay your promotion review. Said you're too emotionally strained by family obligations. HR might postpone your evaluation. I ended the call and looked at the three of them. Their faces were pale. You went after my job, I said, voice low and razor sharp. You tried to destroy my reputation, my financial independence, my career. Megan, we were just worried about. Kathy began to speak, her voice faint and unsteady. Worried? I laughed, cold, cutting. You were terrified that I'd break free, that I'd be independent, that I wouldn't need you anymore. So you tried to sabotage my credibility, lie to my employer, steal my income. Thomas stepped forward. This is all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I said, unlocking my phone. I have the recording. The voicemail Mom left for Mr. Ford. My daughter is mentally unstable. The family needs to step in and manage things. Was that also a misunderstanding? Erica's voice shook. Megan, we were just. You were trying to control me completely, I said quietly. Under the name of family. You were willing to destroy my job, my reputation, and my future just to keep me as your personal ATM. That was when Kathy resorted to her final weapon. No tears, no smile, just a sharp, calculated voice. Megan, you need to face reality. Blood is thicker than water. We are your family. You owe us, morally, legally. Owe you? I let out a soft laugh. It wasn't bitter. Something deep within me had finally loosened. For 22 years, I lived by that supposed obligation. But isn't responsibility a two-way street? If I owe you, what have you ever given me in return? I took a step back and placed my hand on the door. As for the legal threats, you don't have to worry. I already spoke to my lawyer. He's fully aware of everything. And according to him, I owe you nothing. Zero legal obligation. And the false reports to my employer? That could qualify as defamation. Kathy then broke down completely. Megan, I never thought you could be this cruel. I looked at them one last time. There was no rage, no sorrow, only a deep, unshakable calm. I'm not being cruel, I said softly. I'm being healthy. And now you finally get to feel what I've lived with for years. Real loneliness. Wait. Kathy reached out, lunging forward. But I shut the door firmly, completely. Their voices came muffled through the wood, but they no longer stirred anything in me. I walked to the kitchen and made myself a cup of coffee. My hands were steady. My chest felt light. I sat by the window. Snow was falling slow, quiet. Each flake felt like it was washing away the last remnants of old burdens. The phone began ringing again. 80 times, 90, 100. But all I felt was peace, warm, deep silence. For the first time in years, I was truly free. The victory in court was even more liberating than I'd imagined. The lies to my employer, the attempt to change my payroll, the sabotage of my promotion. Every piece of evidence was admitted. Their lawyer tried to offer a settlement, but I stood firm. This wasn't about money, it was about dignity. When the judgment was announced, the judge clearly stated it was a case of deliberate defamation through the abuse of familial ties. The compensation didn't matter. What mattered was that the court officially validated my truth. Unexpectedly, my case drew public attention. A support organization for survivors of toxic families invited me to speak. My story gave others courage, especially the part about workplace sabotage, something that was rarely recognized. According to my lawyer, my case has now become a reference point, cited in similar lawsuits. The court's acknowledgement of familial manipulation resulting in reputational damage opened the door to legal protection for many who had been suffering in silence. After the trial, my bond with Mrs. Harrison became something special. She had testified in court, offering her detailed observations over the years. You're not alone, Megan, she told me, holding my hand after the verdict. Since then, we meet for tea on weekends. There's no blood between us. But she became the first person I truly chose as family. Her presence taught me what healthy relationships can look like. As for my biological family, I only heard bits and pieces from Mrs. Harrison. Thomas, unable to cover his medical bills, was forced to rely on public insurance. Ironically, the financial limitations meant he had to quit gambling. And for the first time, he began taking his health seriously. Kathy lost her place in the ladies' society. Her reputation in the neighborhood was shattered. With no money left to maintain appearances, she finally took a part-time job. Erica had to abandon her influencer dreams. She took on her first full-time job. The shift from 15 to 40 hours a week was a sobering collision with reality. But what struck me most was how quickly their unity collapsed. Once I was no longer their shared source of money, they turned on each other. Kathy blamed Thomas for his irresponsibility. Thomas accused Kathy of wastefulness. Erica resented them both for spoiling her and then cutting her off. Eventually, they lost the house and each went their separate way. The neighbors, now aware of the truth, offered no sympathy. Meanwhile, my life moved forward steadily. I got the promotion. I was appointed the project lead for an international campaign. Back when I was under their control, I had always second-guessed myself. Always filtered my words through the fear of their reactions. Now, I speak with clarity and confidence. I run meetings decisively. I can turn off my phone and focus uninterrupted. My colleagues trust me. My superiors see me as a candidate for senior leadership. Even my team has rallied around me, knowing what I've been through. "You've really changed, Megan," Susan told me one day. "There's a confidence in you now that wasn't there before." But the best part? Working for myself finally feels meaningful. Every extra hour, every decision is mine, for my own future. Therapy continues. And my ability to maintain healthy boundaries has never been stronger. One moment from therapy stood out months after the trial. "Do you still feel guilty when your family contacts you?" my therapist asked. I paused, looked inward, and realized something. There was no guilt. Only peace. "No," I answered with certainty. "There's no guilt anymore, just sadness. Sadness that they've lost the capacity to build healthy relationships." "That's a profound shift," she smiled. "Guilt comes from the false belief that you've done something wrong. But sadness, it means you've accepted reality. You've separated their choices from your responsibility." And in that moment, I understood. I was finally free. Not just from the past, but from the emotions that once bound me to it. I had learned how to live alongside pain without letting it lead me. These days, I've begun volunteering with a charity that supports adults raised in toxic households. I carve out time for myself, for books, for cooking, for hiking, for joy. 6 months ago, Erica sent a message Dad had suffered a heart attack. The old me would have dropped everything, panicked, rushed to the hospital. But the person I am now simply looked at the message on my phone quietly and deleted it. Not a ripple stirred in my heart, because deep down I finally understood they were no longer my responsibility. 1 year later, on Christmas Eve, my dining table was aglow with warmth and light. Mrs. Harrison had brought her homemade apple pie, and joining us were Olivia and Ben, 2 friends I'd met through the charity work I'd begun. Olivia, like me, had escaped the grip of toxic parents, and Ben was a young man who had survived an abusive childhood. "Last Christmas, I was completely alone," Olivia said with a laugh. "And now I'm here, in such a warm and beautiful place." Mrs. Harrison gently patted my hand. "Megan, you created this. You made this gathering happen." I looked around the table. There wasn't a single blood relative present. And yet, the room was filled with real love, genuine care, true support. The memories of Christmases past those nights alone in my dim apartment, paralyzed by the sound of the phone ringing with my family's endless demands, felt like a distant lifetime ago. Ben raised his glass. "To our chosen family. To the people who've overcome their past and decided to choose each other." The soft clink of glasses echoed through the room. And in that moment, I understood truly, deeply. This is what family really means. It's not about blood, but about bonds built on love, respect, and compassion. Relationships grounded in acceptance without conditions. People who cheer for your growth and stand beside you simply because they choose to. Outside, snow fell in gentle silence. But inside, the room brimmed with laughter and warmth. After a long, winding journey, I had finally come home.